Hey everyone, Ben here from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Blood Bowl Formations High Elf Setups. So we're looking at every team in Blood Bowl, whether it's from the rulebook, the Teams of Legend PDF from Games Workshop, or the 2 NAF expanded teams. And we're talking through some example setups for kicking or receiving. The whole plan here is that you've got some cool positionals on your team. So we're going to talk through where best to place them and why, and basically a kind of like, what's your first move? What's your first step? Bit of strategy as well. So if you're planning on playing High Elves or playing against them, this video should give you a couple of tips and tricks on who's going where and why. Now, High Elves are an interesting team, okay? They are very similar to Pro Elves. They've got better armor, but they are more expensive, and they start with a couple less skills. They've been up and down, I would say, in popularity. Now, interestingly, these guys are amazing in Blood Bowl 7s, so watch out for that. Games Workshop have very recently dropped the made-to-order High Elf team. High Elves and Vampires just landed, so this video's timing makes a bit of sense. Now, the cool thing here is the High Elves basically have got all the strength and speed of Pro Elves, but the armor to actually survive a little bit when it comes to League, so they're going to have that durability. But what it does mean with the fact that the made-to-order team is out now is that we're unlikely to see any development of the High Elf roster for a little while. Okay, it's June 21 now, probably not going to see a High Elf team until at least June 2022. So if you picked up the made-to-order team, or if you converted one, or if you picked up one of the cool third-party ones out there, it's still going to be a little while before your team gets changed at all, so you can enjoy it for what it is for now. Anyway, let's have a look at the setups. So before we start, let's have a look at some of the positionals that we've got on this team here. So High Elves are very expensive when it comes to their positionals, so you may not get a full lineup particularly fast if you're playing League, and if you're running a tournament and taking a star player, you've got no chance. So we've got a couple of blitzers here, movement 7, strength 3, edge 2+, block. They are very good players, very good. That edge 2+ means they can get out of where they want to be, and they can bring that block skill to where you want it. Downside is you've only got 2 guys with block. Now what you do have is a couple of guys, up to 4, who are movement 8, strength 3. Now they are very good players, and as they get a couple of skills, they become absolutely dominant. And what this team will become is 6 players with movement 6 or 7 and block, and they become a phenomenally fast team. It is really exciting. You've also got a thrower that's got some cool throwing skills that may never come into play. Okay, so, but at the fundamentals, it's past 2+ thrower, and you want to keep him alive because your rerolls and your team are a little bit expensive, so they're likely to become a leader caddy in some situations. Or you can just go full on accurate cannoneer and just long bomb it everywhere, which will be great fun, but not on defense. So the first defense we got for you is the anchor defense. When it comes to this one, this is great for using against teams that are bashier than you. You've got some reasonable dash, you've got a little tiny, it's fine when it comes to bash, but realistically if you're up against dwarves, orcs, chaos, black orcs, lizardmen, Nurgle, there's a lot of teams that are likely to outstrength you. What you want to do is put 3 guys on the line. Now, if you group them together, it gives less opportunity for multiple blocks, okay? But they are going to have to deploy probably 5 guys against them, and that gives you a slight numbers advantage later on. So when it comes to the anchor defense, you've got that line, you're writing that line off, you just got to hope that that armor 9+ holds. On your turn, that 2+ dodge away is going to be really key. It's going to rob your opponent of free blocks. And then you've got the good stuff. So when it comes to the anchor, you've got 2 edge pieces here who are normally either high strength combat pieces or low strength vulnerable ones. Goodbye linemen. So what we're doing here is we're putting both our linemen on, we're putting 2 linemen on either side of this anchor. And the reason for that is your opponent's going to go, I'm going to block this dude, I'm going to block this dude, I'm going to block this dude, and then I'm going to blitz him. Okay, what they're not going to be doing is blitzing your blitzer, your catcher, your thrower, your other catcher, or your blitzer, okay? This is like half your team value here. If they want to run around and spend 5 players here and spend 2 players here, that's 7 players, and then they've only got 4 in the back for ball collecting, that's fine. You've got 4 dudes who are going to survive a punch. I love stats, and 4 punches can be 4 deaths. It's likely to be like a couple of downs, maybe an armor break, potentially a stun, a knockout. It's going to be okay most of the time. Sometimes you just got to take your lumps and You're going to lose Elves one way or another. But the strength of the anchor defense is in your strike back. So they're going to knock your line around, and you can stand up those guys and 2+ dodge away to stop them having follow-up blocks on the next turn. But you've got a blitzer here with movement 6. You've got another blitzer here with movement 7 and block, and then you've got these movement 8 catches. So if in this situation your opponent does start to move up, you can bring all this to strike exactly where you want to. And that is the strength here of the anchor defense, is that flexibility when it comes to the strike back. Wherever your opponent positions strength, you have an opportunity to just counter strike exactly where you want to be. Now, the beautiful thing here in the follow-up with the anchor defense is you just need to survive this kicking. Then you can start disengage and creating screens. And because you've got movement 8, movement 7, you've got a ton of players. Now they are back, so you're playing defensively, but you do have the speed there to allow your opponent to come down here, and then you can start swooping your players up. And the goal here is to split your opponent's team. If they've put 5 guys here and a couple here to take care of this, you can actually start screening behind them. Cut this part of the team off from the other part, and eventually you're going to have more numbers than they are in their backfield, and that is where the elf team gets its strength. So anchor defense is all about surviving that first hit and then slowly turning that line. But if you're playing against a medium to fast team, then the chevron defense will do you very, very well indeed. So the strength of the chevron defense is you've got an interlocking wall of tackle zones with only one layer of vulnerability, which is straight down the throat. Now the great thing there is you've got 3 linemen here whose tackle zones overlap on that central square. Your opponent, if they want to run down the middle, if they are a fast team, they're going to have to deploy 5-6 players to clear out this line. They're probably not going to do that. If this is a situation where your opponent is trying to score in 2 turns, 3 turns, if they just want to get scored and then play defense, they're going to want to score quickly. They're not going to camp. So this defense basically forces their hand. There are 2 vulnerabilities. One is straight down the middle. If they do that, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You've got incredible coverage of both of your blitzers right down the middle, and you've got even better coverage with the catchers. So you will always basically be able to get an assist with a movement 8 catcher, and you'll always be able to get a 2-die block then with your blocking movement 7 blitzer. They are a great combination, and you've got 2 individual groups there of safeties, which gives you so much strength. It gives you so much strength. If they've got a breakthrough, then you are going to be able to 2-die punch whoever you need them to punch. If they go for edge, they are going to have to swoop down here, tag this guy, put an assist there, and then blitz in potentially to do that. Now if they do that, this guy is still going to have his tackle zones, and they are going to be dodging down the edge. And if they make it, you've still got 2 catchers here with a ton of range, which means you should be able to get another 2-die block. It will be more vulnerable, but it's the best way to do it. Plus they're probably going to have to try and chuck those assists on, or take a 1-die block on your blitzer. By this time I'm hoping your blitzer's got dodge. If it doesn't, it's still got block, and you know what, that's the hardest target. Now one thing to watch out with the chevron defense is you only have 4 safe spots. In fact, if you think about it, you've only got 2 safe spots which are here. This is vulnerable on either side. Your sacrificial dudes on the front are vulnerable as well, and you notice that we've got our thrower here. It really depends on who is more important to you at this point. There is no way to shield all of your players. The only thing you can do is swap a catcher with a thrower here. You've got 5 dudes, and you've only got safe spots for 4 of them. In fact, you've got safe spots for 2 of them here, because your blitzers you kind of want on the edge there. Now what you can do is stack it around a little bit. Put the thrower here, put the blitzer here, put the catcher here. What that will do is 100% invite that blitz against this thrower, but it means you've got a blitzer in reserve. So there's definitely an element of bait and switch here, but it could cost you your thrower's life. Having the thrower on the middle here is still a tempting blitz target, but they are still going to have to clear out all the other tackle zones. So there's no way for them to blitz into that thrower and then straight through. There will be tackle zones there. 1 blitz, 1 block can take this blitzer out and create an opening down the side. Putting the thrower on the inside kind of baits them to try and find a way to get 2 dice on this thrower. To do that, they're going to need to support there, put a support there, and come in there and blitz. If they do that, they're going to end up in the catcher's tackle zone. If they do that, they're going to have this lineman here. So it's okay to put your thrower out front. there is a chance he's going to take a punch, and if you're okay with that, actually that means their blitzers go in the middle and they're not breaking through. If they want to break through, they're going to attack the edges or straight down the center, and your thrower not there. So the chevron gives you a great defense from stopping the breakthrough. But also, if you think about it, your dudes are just 2-3 squares down, so if your opponent tries to swoop the line, fails, or you end up with a really deep kick on elf teams are fantastic. These players are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 movement. You have got 2 independent little teams here of fast, agile players with a bit of block, with a bit of catch. It's phenomenal. If your opponent goes this side with a slow kick, these guys, if their opponent does not shield, are going to be right there on the ball. And then what you can do is you can screen behind this line and bring your players up, and before you know it, you are in their backfield again with greater numbers and greater players. It seems like the 5-4-1-1 is my go-to with a lot of formations at the moment, and you know what? It's because it does a really good job. You want to protect against the blitz, you've got tackle zones every flipping where. If your opponent wants to drop the ball there and try and come get it, they've got to go through a blitzer or a catcher. You know what? They can do that, but it's going to cost them. It's going to force them to roll more dice. They're going to need to roll a blitz. They're going to need to roll well on the amount of players they can activate, and then they're going to need to be able to roll well to get those blitz throughs. And then you've got a bunch of players that can come and counter strike. So you're actually in a pretty safe spot. The other key thing about the 5-4-1-1 is that you can take a turn off. You can, because you are protected. And when it comes to elves, you don't necessarily always want to score in 2 or 3 turns. You kind of want to score in 4, 5, 6, 7 turns. And the best way to do that is to keep the ball on your side of the pitch with your players adjusted. If you look at this setup, if your opponent is mid to heavy, they may deploy more guys on the line, in which case you don't. You just drop 2 back. They're going to get 1 blitz against you. So the ball is still safe because of the way you've got your players. They're going to have to clear out a couple and come all the way through. If the team is stronger than you, they're not going to have the movement to come and get the ball either. So you can technically allow them to come to you and just use your far superior agility and speed to just switch around and just play piggy in the middle with your own lives, I guess. However, we are assuming that you want to dominate and score and win this game. So you've got 5 guys on the line. At the moment, they're all linemen, but depending on how your opponent deploys and depending which side you want to blitz, a couple of these can be blitzers, if you're willing to put the lineman on the line there. For example, putting a cheeky blitzer here means that you can take a really good 2-die block with the blitzer and free up this lineman to go do stuff. If you put blitzers on the edge, it means that they get the additional support and then you're closer to blitzing. You can even deploy these guys on the line if speed is of the essence, but I like having them back a little bit because, again, it just means that if your opponent does set up wide, you're not starting in any tackle zones and allowing any free blocks if it goes wrong. Maybe they'll give you some free blocks, in which case it's not a bad idea to support and blitz and just have a cheeky little blitzer block. Anyway, the whole goal here is wherever the ball lands, you've got a thrower and a lineman. The lineman can move down to protect the ball. Even with elves, I do recommend it, because you're going to roll that 1. Elves, no. Skaven, no. 1s are the killer of this team. But because of the way you've got this team set up, you've got a screen. So if you do fluff the ball, it's fine. You will get some good blocks here, and if you want to use your blitzers to take those blocks, that's fantastic. If you don't, because you want to use a blitzer to blitz, that's great. I recommend 1 blitzer on the line to at least get a good block with block, and then the other blitzer can be your blitz angle. Keeping them both back in your second team here allows you to choose which way. Ball goes there, these guys drop back, these guys blitz out. What we're going to do is we're going to move this ball this way. We're going to start farming blocks this way, block, 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 2 dice, and eventually my team is going to look like this, and we are going to push this side here by enveloping this half of the team and then just using my greater speed and agility to break through on one side or the other. Works almost every time. But with the 5-4-1-1, the beauty is you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. You can just flip and disengage. I do love taking 2-die free blocks when you get them with elves though. So if you want to burn out the clock, blitzer goes here, and you just take a 2-die block, 2-die block, 2-die dude block for the sake of it. You have disengaged your entire team. The ball is perfectly safe. Move a lineman up, move the thrower up next to it, or try and pick it up at the end of the turn. Your opponent has this many blocks on their turn, and they can go for one blitz. They're not getting to the ball carrier, and the rest of your team can then go wherever the heck you want it to do. This is a bit of a power play if you don't overcommit. I'm not sure you're going to need it with the speed and agility of the High Elf team, but we're going to have a look at the heavy flank. So the heavy flank offense is for when you absolutely positively have to score a touchdown in 2 turns. You've got the thrower down left, you've got linemen up here, and what we're doing here is we're creating this wall of tackle zones. If your opponent gets a blitz, they're going to have a guy here with a billion movement to come in and get the ball. That is good protection for you. But what we're looking at doing here is stacking 4 guys on the line. If your opponent's gone 3 central, which they probably will because they will probably want to minimize the amount of free blocks they give you. Even when you're elves, free blocks are useful for your team. If they spread wide, the same thing happens. The same thing you need to consider. So we've got the thrower as the main collection element. The whole point of this guy is to go down here, pick up the ball, move up here, pass it to the easiest person. That person's going to hand it off to one of your catchers who is looking to score. You have got a support here. He's tagging both these guys. That's a 2-die block. If you want to use a blitzer to be your pivot block, you can. I'm happy with 2 dice with no skill, but that just leads to both downs. If you've got a reroll, use a lineman. If you don't have a reroll, use your blitzer here and your lineman here. What it allows you to do is take that 2-die block, get that cleared out. Then this guy and all of his friends are free. This dude's got the ball. There's a lineman up here because he's handed it off from the thrower. And then you've got blitzer, blitzer, catcher, catcher, lineman, lineman. Movement 6 and 2+ is the worst you've got there. The linemen move up and tag and obstruct. The blitzers move up, create that side screen. The other catcher puts himself in a position to receive the ball and break out, and the main catcher with the ball gets in that pocket of protection. Your opponent can blitz the front catcher and stop your movement. You just go a different way. Your opponent can attack the side of your side cage. You just use your edge 2+ to dodge away, or just punch him back with the blitzer. You are taking a risk at forming a side cage or a side screen, but this is the best way to score in 2 turns. You clear out, you've got the most players here available on the line, and wherever the ball goes, you've got a reasonable 2+ pickup to get that ball over here. Now, if a lineman picks it up, it's okay to do a handoff to the thrower for the thrower to come up here and go for that pass, because it's going to be a 2++ pass or a 3++ pass, and it's going to be your best angle of attack. It's okay to do it that way, so don't worry too much about relying on the thrower to take the pass first. Everybody's catching on a 2+. The reason you want to get it to the catcher is because they're movement 8, which is pretty lovely, and they're catching on a 2++ as well. So if you can get the ball to the thrower and the thrower within 3 squares, it's 2++, 2++ to get that ball from one player to another. Do you have any idea how many squares that can cover? It is filthy, it is fantastic, and it is what High Elves are there to do. Anyway, guys, thank you ever so much for watching. Please let me know what you think of High Elves in this edition. The cool thing, I was really looking forward to them getting new models and a new team, but it means that we can kind of plan now to play High Elves as they are here. So I think I'm going to go buy a Made to Order High Elf team, because those are the models I grew up with. They came out in 1994. I was 6 when this team was made. It's amazing. Anyway, I'm going to go. Happy blocking.